You're tuned in to Steve Megatron on Altered Geek.
Hello and welcome to Altered Geek. I'm your host, Steve Megatron Phillips, and joining me again this week is...
the one, the only, the one true Birdman. Mike the Birdman Dodd of thisweekingeek.net. I don't know where I was going with that, but I bet you thought it was somewhere blasphemous. But it's not, so you can, be cool with me now.
The one, right? The only, the verified... Oh, wait.
I wish. Okay, there is a guy on Twitter I went to school with. He has less than 300 people, and he's verified on Twitter.
I know, that irritates the crap out of me. I have people I know or that work with that have less followers than I do, and I'm like, why don't I have it yet? It's like, and I've submitted the thing like 8 times, and I'm like, I work in media. Like, literally, I work in media. I not only have a legit job in media, but I also have the podcast network. So, like, why am I not getting it? But
I'm willing to say, look, man.
They've suspended their verified, though. They've suspended the individual verified submissions.
Really?
So, yeah, as of, like, 2 days ago.
Oh, well, you know what? Someday they'll notice me, man.
Someday, man.
And I'll get that little blue check mark, and I'll be like, I'm cooler than the rest of you mofos. But anyway,
so
this is Altered Geek.
So, yeah, in this episode of Altered Geek, we thought we would talk about, collectors' first world problems.
So this is yet another thing that I've pitched towards Steve. So, okay. So, as I've talked about on Altered Geek before in the past, I've recently got this massive geek boner for Power Rangers recently. And recently, Boom Studios put out this awesome event, came out just at the last week of March. The next issue is hitting, I think, either this week or next week, depending on when this Altered Geek comes out. And it's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Shattered Grid. If you don't know what that is, it's this huge, most of the year event, concludes in August. And basically, there's this bad guy who's an alternate version of Tommy Oliver called Lord Draken. And he's going across all the Power Ranger timelines, and he's kicking the crap out of every team imaginable. He's even killed Rangers, even some very big names. I don't want to say who because it gives away a lot of the punch of the first issue, but it's big. So
and he's a dick.
Yeah, and he's mega douche. So I'm like, oh my god.
Now, did you watch the video of it?
Oh god, did I ever? Multiple times.
I wish that they would make that a series and just make it an original property thing of Power Rangers, and then that would be spectacular, because then they could create everything from scratch, and yet it would be all American.
If they did that as a GoFundMe, bam, here you go.
Yup.
Merry Christmas. Even let's say if they had like a $5,000 reward tier, you get to be a Ranger Sentry on set. Done. Like, that would be cool. So anyway, so with this, I called around to my local comic book shops trying to find a copy of this book. And fortunately, I found one in my old hometown of Orangeville, Ontario, and it was in a black sealed poly bag. Cool. So that cost me my $7, paid it, whatever. I now have it in my possession. There's like 7 or 8 different variant covers to this thing. Neato. I then realized I could have just bought this comic digitally and saved myself the trouble. There's a point to all. So I realized I've got a first world collector problem. So I'm cleaning my studio with my wife and my friends because I am really anal about how clean my studio is and how organized everything is. I've got a little bit of OCD going on there.
Yep, so do I.
And I've got all these comic books, Steve. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, like 8 different comic boxes. Those big, long, white boxes just full of comics. It's My Little Pony, Transformers, Ghostbusters, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, Superman, Green Lantern, etc., etc. It's a bunch of different series. And I'm realizing, shit, I'm running out of room, guys. Now, I'm recently have become confined to a wheelchair, with the chance of getting a prosthetic as soon as I get back to physio. That's a whole different story. But regardless, for now, I'm in a wheelchair. I'm rocking this steel pony. So that means I now have something that's known as a turning radius. Not just because my ass is huge, but because now I literally have wheels. Like Professor X. So I'm in my studio, or I'm looking into my studio, rather, from the hallway. And I see all these comic boxes. And I'm thinking, I can't get at my shelves. Those things are, my comic boxes are on the floor. I can't reach down safely in my wheelchair to get at them because there's a chance I could fall out. Because the way that my wheelchair is balanced, it's the thing about being handicapped, you don't really kind of realize you have to consider balance in a lot of things now. And just how front forward you're sitting, especially how your wheelchair is fitted for you. But that's handicap problem. That ain't collector problem. Collector problem is this stuff takes up so much damn space. So I thought back, hey, wait a second. I did kind of solve this problem already. I could just buy my comics digitally. Man, I could save myself a lot of time and money. And purchases in the cloud never really go away. I mean, sure, if the company folds, but what are the odds of that? Small. It's possible. But as long as I have a device or have the account, it will always be there. Unlike with comic books, if I say, take my Amazing Fantasy number 15 and decide to kick it across the room, it's trashed. It's gone. With a digital comic, what am I going to do? I can scribble on the iPad, but it's not going to destroy the comic. So maybe I can solve my first world problem by decluttering, by downsizing what I have. And it just came to me as this amazing revelation, thinking, man, I can get rid of a lot of crap if I need to. But it's so hard because comics to me are the one thing, they're either really easy to move or they're really hard to move if you want to sell them. For example, I was looking through old press kits and I found a Rick and Morty #1 issue to their comic book series. I found a variant cover, the four colored grail. It's 4CG or 4CG or whatever. Some of that. It's a variant cover. And evidently, it's kind of rare. I've seen it go for like $75. By the way, it's still for sale if anybody wants it. Sorry, cheap plug. But anyway, I got to realizing I have all this crap I'm just holding on to just because comic books, I was always told from a young age, hold on to. But they never retain their value anymore.
Well, they haven't since the 90s, honestly. In the 90s, they pumped them out because that was the saying of hold on to your comics, even though everything from the 90s onward is worth nothing.
Yeah, I can think of maybe 5 or 6 books that are worth anything post 2000. And the biggest one among that is The Walking Dead because it was such a low print run. Actually, funny story about that. I had one of those Walking Dead #1s when it first came out. Where is it now? Beats the hell out of me. Lost it during a move. That's my luck. But yeah, I got to thinking about that. I mean, I remember when Marvel and DC and Image would put all these different variant covers out, or there'd be different holographic Spider-Man on a textured thing. Hell, one of my favorite covers is Venom #1. I think it came out in like 1993. It's just this red holographic foil cover with this black snarling Venom. Or there's this Punisher Warzone that has just this cardboard cutout that's just full of bullet holes. And it's one of the coolest comic covers I've ever seen. I would actually go back and get that if I could. Or there's another one where it's Wolverine. He's got his claws out. You can see the Hulk's reflection in them. And it's that hollow foil silver material. Stuff like that. And that's from like the What If series of comics. There were just... Comics are so hard for me to get rid of. And though I just donated a bunch of graphic novels because, it's graphic novels. Who cares? And yet I found out I sold a couple of my graphic novels to make some money for my wheelchair fund. Turns out I could have sold those for a crap ton more, and I totally got taken advantage of. Somebody I knew got a deal. I'm not mad about it. I'm like, well, a heads up would have been nice, but whatever.
Yeah, that's I've noticed that when I've sold comics in the past is like I knew I was getting taken to the cleaners, but I needed the money then.
Yep.
Whereas like now when I've sold, because I had as I've mentioned in a previous episode, I've sold a ton of my collectibles. I literally have almost nothing left as far as like physical toys. I have a few select figures, like I have a couple Lego creations. I have like a Enterprise A model. I have a couple of Captain Kirk's. I have like a Batman figure that I'm still trying to get rid of. And then I've got the Masterpiece Optimus Primal Beast Wars figure, and that's about it. And then I've got about 50 comics that I'm probably going to offload soon too, which are, I have like the Rebirth Batman issue 0, like a couple variants. I have the about 3 different variant covers of the TMNT from IDW, which have the GCRN quote on the top of them.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, we were quoted from the pull bag on the top of the issues, and I was like, boom, bought them because it said Geekcast Radio at the top. I was like, I'm keeping those. Just because it's an awesome landmark. And then I have probably I think the rest of them are like Transformers comics from like Dreamwave and some IDW stuff, so I'm going to be offloading those soon. But really, I don't expect to make anything off the rest of the stuff that I have.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff I kept in terms of graphic novels, I kept all my Dreamwave Transformers stuff. I have all the Dreamwave comics for Transformers in pretty much mint shape, and I have almost every variant cover they ever did.
Yeah, I'm about.
Do you know how much that is?
I don't know how much it's worth, but
probably not much. And you know, it's tragic that Dreamwave folded.
I found their art and their story to be infinitely better than what we're getting on IDW, just from what I've noticed.
Oh, absolutely. I think the artwork was head and shoulders above IDW, but IDW, I think, has more interesting stories. I would have liked to have seen where the Dreamwave stories would have concluded.
Well, I know where they were headed, and they were headed to Unicron, but I loved how they broke Ultra Magnus out of his armor, and he had like the white Prime, the brother of Prime type thing, and then you had a lot of the the War Within stuff. You had a lot of all these different storylines. You had the Armada leading into
Masters.
Yeah, I mean there was all kinds of awesome. I mean they were going to do a Beast Wars line too, and they were heading all different directions, and I was loving the art on everything. And
it was so bright, it was so vibrant.
And then they were very. They weren't as detailed as IDW, but they looked more like they fit with the animated series.
Yeah, exactly. They felt very much alive. The IDW stuff, it felt so dull, and I could never connect with it.
Although I will say the IDW stuff is infinitely better than the Michael Bay stuff, but even then, I tried it, and then I just couldn't get into it, and so I ended up bailing early on in the IDW runs. I do have the Beast Wars issues. Those I will not get rid of from IDW because it's the only Beast Wars comics that exist. So those I won't get rid of. But still, it was sad to see it go. I still have a majority of my Dreamwave comics though, and they're in pristine condition. Read once and then locked away.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing. With my digital comics, I'm more likely to go back and read them because I bought in the first 2 trade paperbacks, which is weird to say. The first 2 trades of the Boom Power Rangers comics, I'm probably going to get the rest as I get some more money, as I sell some more of my stuff. And I don't know. I don't see a problem with selling stuff to get more digital. And I'm getting, like, for example, this is such a problem I'm having right now. I moved to my current place about 14, 15 months ago. And I'm just realizing I'm missing stuff. I'm missing boxes of video games. I'm missing boxes of toys. I'm missing boxes of movies. So for now, I am determined. I am only buying stuff digital because you know what? If it's in the cloud, I can never lose it.
Yep, and that's the other thing too, is I used to own like 1,400 movies or somewhere in that range. And it got to the point where we just never watched them. We would watch the same like 50 movies over and over. And so mostly it was me, because I just enjoyed the movies enough to do that. My wife would never remember any of the movies except for the ones that I wanted to watch, because I would watch them so much. So we actually eventually started offloading some of them, and then we started getting irritated with the level of just obscenities in the stuff we were watching, just because it was getting like overtly so. Like, it wasn't like the 80s or the 90s where like you'd catch a couple of like people swearing or you know, a couple of like indecent moments, and nowadays like it's rampant and everything, and so it just got too hard to watch everything after a while.
You're not going Pure Flicks on me, are you?
We have Pure Flakes, but I still watch the stuff.
I'm sorry. Those movies are terrible. Every single one of them.
Oh, some of them. There's some good ones in there, and there's some bad ones. It depends. We canceled Netflix because we pretty much watched everything we wanted to watch, and there really wasn't that much to it that we hadn't seen. And then we have Hulu, and we watch a lot of the old 90s TV shows. Just because we enjoy a lot of that stuff. So I mean, it kind of goes through phases of different programming, but at the same time, like, I have a lot of stuff digitally of stuff that we used to own on like external drives. Like, so I mean, we still occasionally go back and watch some of that stuff.
Yeah,
but for the most part, like, it got to be too much. Like, I've got most of my TV series stuff like dumped digitally that I own, and sold off the DVDs just because I didn't want them anymore. Like, they were just taking up space. I had a whole file cabinet just full of my specific TV shows and DVDs that I watched. I have a few movies that are Blu-ray that I won't part with, mostly because they're like Trek films, but yeah, I just don't have the space for any of that crap anymore.
Yeah, the only thing I'm really collecting right now is just the Power Ranger stuff on DVD, because I missed out on the Ranger helmet a couple of years ago. So yeah, sorry for laughing at the Pure Flicks thing. That has just always been the punchline between me and my friends for years.
That's all right,
but hey, whatever floats your boat, man. Party on, and more power to you. But yeah, I don't know, just kind of downsizing. It's been a thing, and like I said, some people view games as a service. You don't really own your media. Yeah, I get that.
But technically, if you read or you look at the beginning of any of your films or your games or your operating system, you technically don't own any of it anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, even nowadays, it's getting hard for me to justify buying these big collector's editions of games. Like, sure, I like the statue or the maquette or whatever gimmick comes with it. The most useful collector's edition I've ever gotten, I've gotten two useful collector's editions, and they're both from the same series. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 with the night vision goggles. Those are surprisingly useful during power outages, because I can see in the dark and Blair can't. And the Call of Duty Juggernog mini fridge from Black Ops 3 keeps my insulin nice and cold so I don't die. So it kind of works out in the end, all things considered. But I don't know. I mean, I like the convenience of having my movies and games in the cloud. Hell, you should see my iTunes account. I own all 7 seasons of Game of Thrones. I own like 50 movies on like iTunes. And it's just because I use all those digital codes I get with the Blu-rays. And I'm starting to think, well, I'm just going to put it on my Plex server anyway. What's the point of buying it if I'm just going to stream it or just do whatever? I'm literally getting to that point where I think I may become I may be going green by going digital only. I mean, I'd rather spend $150 on a hard drive and be able to fill that with media for a couple of years than have all these Blu-rays and lug them around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what we were doing. Like, we had like 7 totes of just DVDs, and it got to be ridiculous. And then a majority of them, like some of them, we'd even chucked the CD cases, and we'd bought like these sleeves to put them in these boxes. And then eventually, because some of the stores won't take them without that stuff, so I gave them away to family, and I was like, here, take them, whatever. Majority of the stuff we actually turned in and sold at this place called Disc Replay in the US, and I actually bought my 27-inch monitor out of most of it, plus a Kindle Fire and a digital water camera. So
Nice.
So yeah, it went to good use. But I think I still have like $30 of credit in their store. But yeah, I mean, it got to be like this point of just I'm just done with collecting things. Like I don't I don't even buy like toys anymore. I just download the picture and I'm like, hey, I got it.
See, the only thing I want, truthfully, is I want some Power Ranger stuff. I've got my wife for our anniversary. She got a hell of a steal on this. She got me a Red Ranger Legacy helmet, a Legacy Blade Blaster, a Legacy Wrist Communicator, and I'm still waiting on a Legacy Red Morpher. She got that for $100. I got everything minus my Dragon Dagger back that I sold for my wheelchair for like less than 5% of what I paid for. Or, you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah, basically, I got it all back for next to nothing.
Which is good.
You can't beat that. And you know what? I'm even looking at the big games that are coming out now. Like God of War just came out. There's going to be a collector's edition for Black Ops this year, I'm sure, for Call of Duty. I don't even know what the big video games are this year. But you know what? I just want the digital collector's edition because I get all the advantages anyway. I want the season's pass. I want the digital content. Having the statue, it's just one more thing to dust now. And I never thought I'd be that guy.
Yep. There's, to be honest, I would love nothing more than to get a version of my ship in Star Trek Online for my desk, because they 3D print them now, but they're insanely expensive, which is the only reason I won't do it. Which is why I have this Hot Wheels like 6 or 7 inch Enterprise A model instead of the custom ship I would like. That's from my in-game version of my ship. But I do have a majority of these Star Trek comm badges at this point that I've been obtaining. I still have the original communicator, like flip communicator from the original series from like the Playmates line from the 90s. It doesn't work anymore. The little metal tab in the inside of the battery pack snapped off years ago. I was a little sad about that. I was like, man, I wonder if I could fix that. But
you could, but it's an expensive repair, or it's an easy repair if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think I could fix it, like, based on where it snapped off. Like, I have a feeling I could fix it. It's just a matter of making it happen. But
you know what? You should reach out to a guy, and I want to plug this guy because I think he's a fantastic YouTuber. His name's Michael and his wife, Melinda. They run a channel called Retro Blasting. They do some fantastic toy restoration videos. And if anybody could help you put together or how to fix this thing or resurrect it, it would be those guys. And Michael's a huge Star Trek fan too. Like, he did this awesome video series on all the Star Trek toys for Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock like 2 years ago. And he does some amazing vintage Star Wars stuff too. It's pretty cool. You should check him out. It's Retro Blasting on YouTube. Cannot recommend those guys enough. Tell them Birdman sent you.
Will do. But yeah, I'll check that out later. But yeah, I have that. I have like the TNG, the Voyager, the original series like Wrath of Khan ones. I have those. I have the captain pin that goes on the Wrath of Khan uniform. I also have the Star Trek Online pin and the Future Imperfect pin. For the com badges. And then the only other thing I really want in my arsenal, and I'll talk about this more on Future Imperfect, but is the uniform of my character from Star Trek Online. So, but other than that, like I really don't care to collect all that much of anything anymore.
I think if I had to pick anything, I want props from stuff. Like I love role play stuff.
Yep.
Like from Star Trek, if you got me a first contact phaser rifle, that'd be cool. But we can talk about that in a Future Imperfect.
Yep. So, I don't know. What do you guys think in the listener land of offloading? Going from your collector's first world problems and just offloading all your digital or offloading your physical content for digital content and trading in it. I know we've kind of talked about it a little bit in the past, but it was a little bit different than this kind of conversation. So just hope that you guys find something interesting in there to relate as far as kind of discovering you've hit this point in your life where you're like, I don't need the clutter.
Yeah, I've just become grumpy old man Birdman, and he don't need none of that crap. Get off my lawn.
Yep, pretty much. So you can interact with us by emailing feedback at alteredgeek.com, or you can get a hold of me on Twitter at SCP21. And yourself, sir?
You can find me where you can find all good shampoo products at Birdman Dodd.
It's going to be squeaky clean.
That's right.
So until next time, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.
And spay and neuter your pets.